It's okay. Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's Star Report. This is Jason, and I am here at New Dimensions Crystals and Reiki in downtown Brenham, Texas, and it is June the 21st, Solstice. Let's jump right into the Star Report and the Solar Report. We talk about the sun here because the sun is the largest star and it has the most effect on the planet. So what's going on with the solar weather is that there is a coronal hole that is incoming, but it is too far north or to the top of what is facing us of the sun, which is not going to impact us. But you might see that moving towards. And just to let you know that it needs to be more towards center disk to affect us. So it's really up at the top of the star, and so will not be impacting us. Some of the weather that happened, my hair's going crazy today. Awesome. Some of the stuff that happened yesterday, there was a large solar flare, which is X class. And so X class solar flare happened sometime early yesterday. And so when solar flares happen, sometimes they send out coronal mass ejections. And so the solar flare sent out a coronal mass ejection, which is not headed Earth direction, but it is heading in a direction which is going to impact the alignments and the energy that's going on in the planets in the star report. And so I'll get to that next. But just sort of what happens in solar flares when they send out a CME is that the plasma or the parts of the sun or the sort of I guess it's a plasma, but basically the liquid, if you were to think about it, the parts of the sun that come off of the sun when that happens, this coronal mass ejection, is ejected at about 1,000 kilometers a second, right? So when those large things come out in the plasma comes with it, when those impact, it can hit the shield of the planet that it's doing, but sometimes the larger one sort of causes the shield to have some disruptions. And so, like I said, this one wasn't directed at Earth this time. It was directed at Venus and Mars. So there's an alignment happening in the stars, which I'll sort of touch on about the Sunday report. But just sort of thinking about that those planets, Venus and Mars, they're in an alignment or they're in conjunction right now. And so that energy of the extrasolar energy going into those planets while they're affecting us here on Earth, or their alignment is, right? So Venus is usually the planet of love. Sometimes there's an old school book. I don't even know how old that is. But women are from Venus, men are from Mars, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I don't know. Whatever the direction of that is, but so just sort of like there's usually this sort of divine feminine loving energy from Venus and this sort of divine masculine aggressive, sometimes warlike energy from Mars, and which is likely. So when this solar impact sort of hits them over the next day, that is really about increasing energy for relationships, right? But since it's both planets at the same time, it's also about increasing in the balance, right? So you might, instead of feeling triggered, you might feel super calm, which might be triggering, right? Hey, why do I feel calm, right? Sometimes when the energy isn't flowing or the energy becomes balanced and it's not a fight or a diversion, then sometimes that's about what do I do with that, right? And we sort of feel like something's not happening. I get that way a lot, right? Since I'm so into the energy, when it starts to become sort of a balance, or maybe if we're on a roller coaster and it's at the top of the thing and the cars have sort of stopped and it feels like this nice little pause, right? Some people get nervous about, hey, are we fixing to fall off a cliff? Kinds of things. So pay attention to that energy, but the Venus and Mars energy could be affecting what's happening with your relationships, your interpersonal relationships. So if you're in a romantic relationship, sometimes old issues might be triggered with this energy hitting, but more likely it's going to feel like this sort of balance and this calm. Don't mistake the lack of intensity for lack of connection. So pay attention to that. And that'll be over the next couple of days with that. That alignment's going to stay there, but just with this extra solar energy, pay attention to that. And just other stuff that sort of happens when these large solar flares happen up into the X class. There is a plasma discharge where it sort of goes out and affects parts of the planet. And so the large affected area was over the United States yesterday. And so that would have given us a radio wave, high frequency radio wave blackout. So sometimes satellites and other kinds of broadcast systems could be interrupted. And that would have been a blackout for about a half an hour. that energy, when it hits the planet, is also going to pick up our jet streams and our storm low pressures and stuff like that. Will increase wind speeds and also storm tracks, right? So we know that there's some large hurricanes or tropical storms building in the Atlantic heading towards the United States. Those will move faster when these kinds of storms happen. So they'll spin faster, but they'll also move faster towards their pathway. So just sort of pay attention and watch the storms that are happening. And that is the solar weather. Moving right along, not to belabor the process. I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to be, but as long as you have to be. And so Wednesday and today and Thursday is the day of the solstice. This is the summer solstice or the winter solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere. And so that means that we're halfway through the year. The solstice is really energy about balance, right? And so that energy of balancing out Venus and Mars is also the energy of the solstice, which is, our relationship to the sun and our tilting. And so, excuse me. And so that tilting that we're doing about being life and balance is also going to have us that top of the roller coaster ride of what are we doing, right? And so the energy of today, I don't want to say you should necessarily meditate, but if you know how to meditate, you should. And the intentions or the contemplations of your meditations over the next couple of days should be the hard work that you've done over the last 6 months, and then where you want that work to be taking you, right? And so if you've been working on self-development, if you've been working on branding, if you've been working on your job, if you've been working on your relationship, right? Think about how far you've come and how you sort of are affected by that, what's going on with you, and then where would you like that to continue to go? Would be the energy of solstice days. Let's see. Yeah, and so pretty simple day. There's not a whole lot to do, right? Sleep patterns actually might be interrupted, A, with the solar weather, B, with the balance, right? Sometimes that energy of balance, the electromagneticness of your brain while you're sleeping really sort of needs either a positive or a negative charge, and right, and so that balance of equal charge really makes sleeping patterns difficult. And so you might have woke up 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, out of a deep sleep. You might have been still in your theta stage, which is that sort of in between dream and wake, where you're sort of remembering the dream part. So take advantage of that. If you're going to do meditative stuff when you wake up, do some contemplation about what your dreams are telling you. And that would be good energy for Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, we're moving into Friday. Friday is the moon is going to be farthest away from the Earth all month, right? And so those distances from the planet or the heavenly bodies are really going to cause not a crisis, are good times to focus on your own power, your own self-confidence, your own strengths, right? So when the moon is far away, right, then you are the capacitor of your spiritual energy, not the moon holding space for it, right? So when the moon is close, right, there's this nice capacity for spiritual energy. When it goes far away, sometimes you might feel isolated or distanced from your spirituality. Really, this is about maintaining that for yourself and having the self-confidence that what you are coming up with on your own is not or doesn't have to be governed by groupthink or propaganda or negativity, but can be your own positive spiritual energy that you can build. And so Friday is a good day to sort of contemplate how powerful you really are. And that leads us into Sunday is the next thing that's happening. These alignments started to, the planets move slow and yada, yada, yada. But these alignments are going to be really pronounced on Sunday. And that is going to be that Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, Mercury, and Uranus are visible in the sky. And you should sort of use Saturn is also in retrograde. And so Saturn is this new understanding, this rule setting, this awakening, this construction of rules and belief systems and governance, right? So Saturn being in retrograde is really going to see some of those old standards crumble away, right? And so the energy of these alignments is really about what is the new standard, right? And so moving in from that Friday energy of the moon being far away, what is the new standard, right? And you'll sort of hear a calling to this on the inside while you're doing those contemplative meditations for the solstice. You're going to start to get an inkling of what is good for you, what is good for the group, and then how to sort of move forward with that. So Sunday is going to be some energy of that. If y'all aren't working and you have time to sort of think to yourself, think about that kind of stuff. Of course, Neptune is deep water world, so deep hidden emotional spirituality, right? Think about dolphins, Atlantis, and stuff like that. Jupiter is the big planet, and so it's about abundance and good things. And then Mercury is about communication. And then, excuse me, Uranus is usually about, along with Pluto, is usually about sort of past life or the foundations, right? So what is this reality to you? Where did it come from? What's your role in it? All those kinds of things could be happening Sunday. And if that's all kind of confusing and you're feeling like, oh, I wish the roller coaster would just start up so that the direction is chosen and I can ride along and sort of mitigate how I'm flowing through reality, then take no better day to do that than Tuesday, when everything starts to move again in a forward direction, but it's a 22 master day. So think of yourself rather than a rider on the roller coaster, but the person down on the ground that is speeding or slowing down or hitting the brakes. All right, so when we have master days, that's the time to really take control, right? And so if you're feeling stagnant or whatnot, then by all means, step on the gas or put the lever all the way up onto the roller coaster and let's just go. In addition to Saturn being in retrograde, just sort of the overarching energies that are happening in the background, Pluto is also in retrograde, right? So hidden things, past life stuff. What are the true foundations of humanity, the earth, right? So you might be watching a lot of YouTube, you might be watching a lot of TikTok, you might even be watching quote unquote Discovery Channel, and really thinking about what are the foundations of human reality, and then, what is truth. All those kinds of things are being sort of triggered by Pluto being in retrograde, right? So those are reordering themselves so that we see things that have been hidden or hidden from us, and that we understand and start to rebuild with Saturn energy what is reality and what would we like it to be. So that's sort of an overarching energy of the week. Of course, if any of that is a struggle for you, I understand. Sometimes it's a struggle for me, and I'm always here available at New Dimensions Crystals and Reiki. You can go to newdimensionscrystals.com and sort of sign up for a service, right? And so those services are energetical alignments, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the energy that's happening in the cosmos, the services I do are going to help you realign that, but those come along with a lot of conversation about what is the specific stuff that's happening to you and how is the energy sort of affecting that. And so we can have a conversation about that. And so when you sort of have a realignment or a balancing of your own personal energy and an understanding of your divinity and your power to sort of change and what's sort of happening in your life, then we can sort of work on that stuff too. Also, if you're sort of into more physical, I got to do something to be this rather than receive and be balanced and aligned. We do breath work, one-on-ones here. You can bring a friend. Those breathwork things are really, if there is spiritual energy, which is in the cosmos, which if there is, because you're watching a star report, that cosmos energy affects us. Riding along on the oxygen and the hydrogen, everything you breathe is something called prana, spiritual energy. And so when you do rhythmic, intentional, intense breathwork, meaning you're moving more of that prana through the body, it's almost like you're a music box and you're bringing more and more stuff along to plink the chords and play the music that is you. And so when you bring more and more of that energy, it clears out. It's almost like clearing out a hose. You send more current or water through it, and then it becomes clearer and has a bigger flow. But also that flow, the more you flow through, allows you to play more music or have a larger or a louder broadcast of the song, which is your own spirit. So that's what happens in breathwork, in addition to many other physical upgrades and alignments with your parasympathetic nervous system and your lungs and your heart. All of those things are benefits that can happen with breath work. Obviously, you can go to newdimensionscrystals.com and sign up for that here too. And then, of course, if you just want to call a shop and or come by the shop and get some crystals, tools, incense to sort of go along with your meditations and your own personal work. I'm open all the time for that too. You can see the hours on the website, which is usually Wednesday through Saturday, unless you've booked those appointments. Appointments are all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and so you can find those online. I think that's everything I have for all of you. Until next time, many blessings.